Alberto Del Rio is an interesting topic, to say the least, in the world of wrestling. On this video today, I'm going to be talking about the rise and the fall of Alberto Del Rio, the character that was portrayed by the man Jose Alberto Rodriguez Chuquan. This is a topic, it's uneasy for a lot of people to talk about. But some of you may not know the guy's story, so I'm going to give you the entire story of Alberto Del Rio. I made a similar video on Johnny Gargano titled The Rise and Fall of Johnny Gargano. And this, by no means, is similar at all. Johnny Gargano, I was simply talking about the rise of the pro wrestler, and he has not done anything to the level of what Alberto Del Rio has done. So this video is going to be in a different tone. Alberto Del Rio, the person, Jose Rodriguez, the person behind the character, he could be described as many things. And I left it up to you on Twitter to decide how you would describe Alberto Del Rio. And a lot of people said disgraceful human being, disgusting, pile of shit. However you feel about him, regardless, at one point he was a major part of our lives as wrestling fans. Let's go back to the beginning. Alberto Del Rio was born in a Mexican wrestling family. He was born in a family of royalty. He is the nephew of Mil Máscaras and the son of Dos Caras. That right there, in and of itself, tells you this man was destined to be a pro wrestler. So at first, he wanted to be an amateur wrestler. He tried out for the Olympics in 2000. Ultimately, Mexico did not send an Olympic wrestling team to the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, Australia. So he had to unfortunately miss out on that dream. I don't know what happened. There's really not much information about it, and it sucks. Then he spent majority of his career in Mexico and in Japan, primarily in CMLL, where he found his most success under the name Dos Caras Jr., which means two faces. From here, Alberto Del Rio was born. He signed a developmental contract in 2009 with WWE and reported to FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling. He spent about 6 to 8 months there, and by June 25th, 2010, he was on the main roster. He debuted on an episode of SmackDown. And from here, literally from his debut, Alberto Del Rio was a top guy for the better part of the 2010s. Honestly, I can't look back at a time and think back to when I was still a kid watching it this time. Everything I look back on, Alberto Del Rio was involved with in some way, shape, or form. You look back at 2011, a boom period in wrestling called the Summer of Punk. Who ended CM Punk's first reign as WWE champion? You remember when CM Punk took the championship in Chicago at Money in the Bank? Who ended that feud? Who ended that reign? Alberto Del Rio. He cashed in on CM Punk at SummerSlam 2011 after CM Punk defeated John Cena. He cashed in on CM Punk. He wins the WWE Championship. And from there, he's off. He wrestled Edge's final wrestling match at WrestleMania 27 earlier in the year against Edge. Edge retired. That's incredible. And then he wins Money in the Bank in the summer. And earlier that year, 2011, he wins the first and only 40-man Royal Rumble match. So in 2011, look at his resume. Royal Rumble match winner. Main event of WrestleMania with Edge. Wrestles Edge's final match for 9 years. After that, wins the Money in the Bank. First and only man ever to win the Royal Rumble and the Money in the Bank in the same year. He cashes in on CM Punk. He ends CM Punk's reign. He holds the title for a couple months. CM Punk ultimately wins the title back. And then CM Punk has a 434-day reign that we know. Alberto Del Rio from here does not stop, though. He loses the title back to Punk. He still finds his way in major feuds, whether it was feuding with Sheamus on SmackDown, feuding with Randy Orton, you name it, feuding with John Cena, Dolph Ziggler. This is really another boom period for Del Rio. In 2013, Dolph Ziggler cashes in on Del Rio's World Heavyweight Champion, the night after WrestleMania. He cashes in. He wins the title. This honestly does more good for Del Rio than it does bad, because Del Rio was in the heat of a horrible babyface run. Del Rio he was not a good babyface for whatever reason. Dolph Ziggler cashes in on him. We get a return match some months later. Famous double turn happens. Del Rio beats the hell out of Ziggler. Ziggler turns babyface. Del Rio turns back to a heel, which he was more comfortable with. And honestly, this is another point about Del Rio. From 2010 to 2014, he was a guy that could legitimately get true heel heat. He was a guy that a lot of people didn't like. You didn't like him because he was such a damn good bad guy. And it turned out to be that the actual man was not a good person in real life. So I guess it worked hand in hand. People that said they didn't like him as a wrestler, he was doing his job. He was doing his job as a heel. Now, in 2014, this is where the fall of Alberto Del Rio begins. All of a sudden, WWE.com reports that Alberto Del Rio was released from his contract on August 7th, 2014. They cited unprofessional conduct. I remember this like it was yesterday. Like, the dude literally was just in the Money in the Bank match and having matches with Ziggler for the U.S. Championship at Battleground. Next thing you know, he's gone from WWE. And we get this suspicious, suspect statement. And I'm like, wow, what is going on? Alberto Del Rio is gone from WWE? Turns out he slapped an employee of WWE, a social media employee, after the employee made a racist remark to Alberto Del Rio. That's what allegedly happened. I can't say, I'm not even going to comment any further because I don't know. I wasn't there. So the man, he gets fired. He goes on Conan's podcast. He says, look, WWE told me they weren't going to fire me, then they changed their mind. And I think they had no choice. You have a wrestler, with all the bad publicity that wrestlers get, you have a wrestler being in publicity for slapping a wrestler. It's just going to give the media fuel to bury wrestlers, the mainstream media, to bury WWE, and it's going to give them fuel to hate WWE. Okay, water under the bridge. Del Rio goes to the indie scene, he goes to Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, whatever. He finds his way back to WWE. This is where it gets even weirder. He makes a random return at Hell in a Cell in 2015, teaming with Zeb Coulter. He beats John Cena clean for the United States Championship. And then WWE does nothing with him. Nothing. He's in the League of Nations with Rusev, Sheamus, Wade Barrett. He gets embarrassed by Mick Foley, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 32 in a really waste of time segment. He's doing nothing. Then eventually, in August 2016, he's suspended for 30 days for violation of the wellness policy. After that, he opts out of his contract because apparently if he wasn't happy with his position in WWE, he could opt out of his contract. That's what the reports are saying. I can't attest how true that is, but we know that WWE did eventually release him. They honored it. And there you have it. Del Rio is gone from WWE again. There were reports during this time Del Rio and Paige were dating. There were reports during this time that WWE was trying to keep them on separate brands, and that also contributed to the unhappiness between Del Rio. And we know Paige, with all of her situation, she ended up violating the wellness policy, and a large part was due to the influence of Alberto Del Rio. This is really when we started to find out the kind of man that Del Rio was. He gets suspended, and then all of a sudden there's cocaine charges on him. He no-shows an event. I don't remember. I think it was Lucha Underground or maybe AAA. I think it was AAA. He no-shows an event claiming that somebody tried to attack him in a restaurant with a knife. And apparently it was over drug-related issues. I don't know for sure because it's very hard to find information on this. But, man, what we do know about Alberto Del Rio is what happened in 2020. All of a sudden in May 2020, he gets arrested after just sexually assaulting his girlfriend, physically assaulting her, verbally assaulting her, leaving bruises on her. And you see this mugshot and you think, wow, I used to cheer for this guy. I used to watch him wrestle and I used to enjoy his matches. And this is the kind of person that he turns out to be. And it's something that, as a wrestling fan, I every time I see news like this, I always think of Chris Benoit, and I think of just how betrayed I felt as a fan, being a fan of somebody like that. And it's just I can't support Jose Alberto Rodriguez after these allegations, and he was indicted. He was indicted on the charges in October of this year in 2020. The fall of Alberto Del Rio, like I said, at one point, he was a top guy in WWE. He was one of the 5 or 6 top guys. He was up there with Randy Orton, CM Punk, John Cena during that era. And then he goes from that. There was the domestic abuse allegations made by Paige. Again, I don't know if those are true or not. The story of Alberto Del Rio is really, it's a sad one. Now, if he is convicted on the charges, he will be facing up to 20 years in prison for just multiple things. He threatened the girl to drop her son in the middle of the road, leave him in the middle of the road somewhere, her baby son. It's crazy to me that Alberto Del Rio was the first Mexican-born WWE champion in history. A lot of you may not know that. You might think Eddie Guerrero or Rey Mysterio was, but the truth is they were born in the United States. Alberto Del Rio, his legacy in WWE, it'll never be mentioned again, obviously, after these charges, if he does get convicted. The story of Alberto Del Rio, Jose Alberto Rodriguez is his real name. It's really just, it's a tragic story, and it's a story that reminds us that we don't really know the people that we're cheering for on TV until they reveal their true colors. We don't know what these people are capable of that we look at as heroes. Not to say that everyone is bad, that's not what I'm saying, but it's just, it sucks when you hear things like this. And that's it for the video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.
Viva la raza! I lie, I cheat, I steal. I lie, I cheat, I steal. Yo, mamacita, I got that.